welcome to tonight. This is our Tech Leadership Series, which is hosted by StartCon. And StartCon is actually the largest startup conference in Australia. We're expecting about 4,000 attendees this year. We haven't launched tickets yet, but they will be going on sale next Tuesday, and we'll also be announcing some of our huge, big-name international speakers that are going to be coming to Sydney to speak. So we have an amazing speaker here tonight. She is also in town, so she's also international. Our Tech Leadership Series exclusively features international speakers while they are in town, and we try to catch them on their trip so that they can come and talk to you guys. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Heather Wilde, who's going to be talking about Growth Hacking 101, and she is the CTO of ROCeteer.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming out. I'm really excited to be here in Sydney. It's always great. I'm glad. How about this weather that you guys are having, right? It's great right now. I do want to point out that I have these little duckies up for grab for people that ask questions. So pay attention and ask good questions during the Q&A, and you might just get a duck. I also want to let you know that I'm terrible at throwing, so you might just get hit in the head with a duck. So anyway, okay, so thank you. We are going to be talking about growth hacking today. Some of you may be growth hackers in here. I've seen a couple of you, I've talked to a couple of you, and you may know that you are one. And others may be growth hackers and not know it. So this should help you figure that out. A little bit about me. This is the slide that I hate doing the most, but if you don't talk about yourself, no one else will. So I guarantee that you must do a brag slide whenever you do a talk. So I am the CTO of both ROCeteer and a company called TWIP, Travel with Interesting People. I've had over 20 years in customer experience design. Why does that matter for growth hacking? You'll find out. I am the only female currently that is the advisory board chair of an engineering school, which is really cool. And I was an early employee at Evernote, one of the founding employees. So you may have that all installed on your phone automatically. Sorry about that, but that's part of growth hacking too. And at Spirit Airlines as well, which is currently the #1 most profitable airline in the United States. I have received awards for my mentorship, my leadership, and all sorts of things. And I'm also a columnist for Inc., Forbes, and Tech.co, so I'm also responsible for a lot of clickbait that you see on the internet. You're welcome. So growth hacking is focusing on understanding your users and how they discover and adopt your products. Simple, right? It's really about understanding users, but also how they're finding you. And that's the key that differentiates this from just regular marketing. Because with marketing, you don't necessarily care where the users are because you already assume that you know where they are. With growth hacking, you're actually doing micro experiments to figure out if you're right about who your user is. So growth hacking allows you, for very little money, to figure out, to validate your experience of, do I have my customer defined properly? And do I know who they are so that I can advertise to them well? So we've got traditional marketing versus growth hacking. So a traditional marketer is good at finding growth solutions. They guess things based on their opinions. And now traditional marketing funnel takes about at least 2 to 3 months for a marketing thing to go out. And it can take even longer for if you're dealing with a marketing team in a large company. With a growth hacker, however, you can actually have something go up within a day if you come up with an idea, and then you can change that later that day. You can change things in the moment. So the main difference between traditional marketing and growth hacking is the speed to change. Additionally, a growth hacker has many different skills. They're often programmers themselves. So they know how to program stuff, but they're also very good at reading data because these guys are going to be getting a lot of data. Now, so now the approach is, how do you make somebody want the product? With traditional marketing, it's you force your message on them. You're telling them you love this thing, you're gonna love it. For example, in America right now, Coke just changed Coke Zero. They're no longer selling Coke Zero. They're now selling new Coke Zero Sugar. The top of the can still says Coke Zero on it because they can't fit all those words, but they don't sell Coke Zero anymore. And they're telling everyone, oh, you're going to love this product, you're going to use this product, you're not going to miss Coke Zero. Now, on the other hand, a growth hacker is making products that people actually want. How is that different? Well, they're finding out from their customers right away through the lean method that people actually want to do a thing, they want a thing, and then they're putting that right back into the product immediately. They're getting that feedback right away. With traditional marketing, the metrics are, okay, so people are buying our product, yay. With growth hacking, it's we found a customer, we've got them to the funnel, and now they're going to buy. So with channels, traditional marketing is mostly paid advertising. But with growth hacking, it's often free or low cost. But you can use paid advertising as well. However, with traditional marketing, it's usually just paid. No matter what, you're going to be doing paid marketing. If you suggest alternative stuff, they're going to be like, what? No. So process funnels here. There's no clearly defined funnels for marketing. Now, anybody that's a marketer in here is going to be like, of course I have metrics, of course I have clearly defined funnels. Yes, but it's not the same kind of thing. For here, it's we want to know how many people are visiting the page. We want to know how many people are activated. We want to know how many are converting immediately so that we can change things. And that's what I mean by a funnel. Because if you aren't using your funnel to convert, then it's not really a clearly defined funnel. If you are just sending out a newsletter every 6 months, and you're sending it out over every 6 months because you've spent 6 months writing that newsletter through traditional marketing, then you don't really care what the call to action is. If you, however, are sending out something every 2 weeks with CTAs in it that have different affiliate links that are going to different landing pages within your site, then you are doing a growth hacking type of marketing. So growth hacking encompasses a whole bunch of different things. It has like engineering involved in here. It has social media monitoring because you need to be paying attention to the mentions that people are giving you, to the sentiment that's out there. There's a lot of metrics because you're going to be getting a lot of data that you have to pay attention to. And then you have to analyze that data. If you're not analyzing what you get, then there's no point. And then the R&D is, what do I do with this data? How am I going to change it? What micro experiments am I going to run next? And then be creative, because if it's not fun, then it's not going to work. So there are 3 different types of funnels that you can use. It's the outbound, so you're displaying ads. The inbound, where you're blogging or you're using white papers, and then just automating things where you're collecting leads somehow to get people into your funnel. These are all different ways that you will use to get people into your marketing funnel with growth hacking. And this is terrible, so just take a picture of it and look at it later. But it's really just going to tell you all of the, this is the secret to growth hacking right here, 100%. And the growth hackers in here are like, no, why did you share that? Because basically it's like you have, whether you've got your inbound or your outbound, what you're using, how you're acquiring them, and what your goals should be. And these are sample goals. So yes, take your pictures, because this is the secret to growth hacking. And if you are a marketer, you're doing a lot of this stuff already. This is something that you know how to do, but you're doing it in a different way. You may be spending more money than you need to, and you may be taking a lot longer time than you need to. So all you need to do, really, to switch yourself into the growth hacking mindset is to get yourself ready to fail. Because growth hackers fail a lot, but they don't spend a lot of money on doing it. So, like, for example, if you're doing, I have for my company right now a matrix of 1,600 different Facebook ads running. Most companies that are doing traditional marketing will do 3 ads. A growth hacker will do somewhere between 400 and 2,000 for any one spot. But I'm only paying about $3 for each one of those 1,600 ads. Like, that's the max I'll ever pay on it. And I'm going to see which one works, because each demographic is going to hit with a different one. And then Facebook actually has an algorithm to tell me which one works better. So maybe it's a color, maybe it's a picture, maybe it's words, maybe it's something. But by having all of those different elements in there, I'm going to know really quick what my demographic is, what works with the demographic, and which things are proper. But if you just assume that you know what your people want, then you're missing out on a whole lot of things. So here's a simple metrics list that you could use. So you can say, I want to grow my company by increasing retention, by increasing daily users, and I want to increase content creation by members by 15% by the end of the year. So this is like a very specifically defined funnel that you could measure against as a growth hacker. If you haven't defined your stuff, then you can't measure properly. And the ways that this person would do this would be to educate members via mail, to show content features on the homepage, or to include content creation in the onboarding experience. So those are 3 different places in Google Analytics that they'd be able to track to see how they're doing. At every single one of these places, they have a funnel that they can define in Google to measure the data to see how it's working. And then they can change the colors, they can change the fonts, they can change the wording, they can do everything, and they can instantly see what's working and what's not. So here on the top, we have poorly defined vanity metrics. So people that pay attention to vanity metrics are not really measuring anything useful at all. So a lot of people pay attention to the open rate of their emails. Well, okay, great. So every single person on your list opened your email. Did you get any person buying anything from it? No. The leads generated is the number you should be paying attention to. How many fans do you have on social media? Who cares? How many referrals are you getting from them? Where is your ad located on a page? Doesn't matter. What's the cost per acquisition? It's like, if you are targeting in the right place, if you're using the right metric, then it's going to work out better for you. Just like people pay attention to how much the impression cost is. Oh, the impression cost is so low. This was great. No. How much did it cost you per lead? If you spend a lot of money on Facebook ads or Google ads, you're going to find that you're spending a lot of money for every lead. And if you only get 1 lead in a $5,000 a month Google ad spend, that's a $5,000 user, and you may not even convert them. So you really need to pay attention to the real metrics. So here's where growth hacking gets really fun. Because just like I said, I have 1,600 ads, and I know which ads are looking better. The one with, I found, for example, from my travel company, that people really like pictures of water, but they don't like pictures of water with people in them. I don't know why, but I know that now. But they also like phrases like YOLO but they don't like you only live once. I know that now, but it has to do something with my demographic, which you might think from those things that I've just said would be a younger demographic, right? The demographic that we found that's most interested in my product is between 45 and 65, which I know now very well because I've done a lot of data analytics. I've done a lot of metrics. I've done a lot of analyzing this, and not a lot of ad spend. So you can find a lot of information very quickly, very inexpensively by doing this. So if you pay attention to channel and content optimization, and which channel you should invest in, what's the most cost efficient, what content you should use, and what content you should add, you will start to be a really awesome growth hacker. So here is another key to growth hacking. Things need to be understandable, because if the call to action isn't understandable to people, then they won't act on it. And something that you've probably seen a lot happen is comparative studies. If you have a comparison of your product with 2 others, then people will love you. So always have something that compares you to something that is completely like you, but kind of sucky, and something that's completely not like you at all, so that people will always want to use you. That's another growth hacker hit there. And a ratio, like, you have to have some way to measure what you're changing, and a way that it's going to be different. So what are you trying to change? What are you trying to measure? Always, always, always find things that you are measuring so that you can know that you've measured, that you know that you're doing better or worse. So what goes into growth marketing? And here's where a lot of you are going to find out that you've actually been doing this already, and you didn't even know it. Buzz marketing is one type of growth marketing. It's also known as viral marketing. It has a high ROI, multiple injection methods, and there is a lot of effort required. Now, buzz marketing is also known as influencer marketing, because what you need to know is you have to find somebody to make something go viral. There are memes that are on the internet, and a lot of them are caused by companies trying to make something go viral. So in order for something to go viral, it really needs to be funny, controversial, helpful, and amazing. Like, this is the secret to going viral, because you actually can. There are companies that specialize in making things go viral, but it really falls down to if it hits all these things for people, then you're likely going to have something viral on your hands if you put it with the right influencers. So once you talk to one person about it, once you get it with the right person, then it's going to be spread across the internet or spread across your location. And so if you hyper target where you want it to be, then it will go out. So say that you have recently there was actually a TV show that had created a fake commercial, or a fake video that was a girl who was doing yoga in her house, and then her pants caught on fire. And it went viral on the internet, and it was 3 months from the time that they planted it until it started getting news coverage around the world as, oh my gosh, this poor girl, look what happened when she was making this sexy video for her boyfriend. And then it turned out that it was an ad for this TV show, this late night talk show. Because as soon as they were just waiting for it to go viral, and then as soon as it did, they took credit for it, and they're like, and here's the actress that we hired right here, and here's the set that we used, and it took 0 to 3 months, and here's exactly all the sites that we put it on, and these are the ones that we got the most traction from. And they showed how you make something go viral. And it turned out that the ones that made the most sense, the ones that went the furthest, were actually the mommy blogger sites. They were the most interested in seeing this poor girl set fire to herself. The first internet buzz marketing thing, some of you may actually remember this. It was called Subservient Chicken. This was an underground website with a man in a chicken suit. It just looked like this. It was just a man in a chicken suit, and it had a box that you could enter something into. And you could give him commands, and then he would do them. So if you said, make a sandwich, the chicken would go and make a sandwich. If you said, read a book, he would go into the bookshelf and sit on the couch and read a book. And there were about 400 commands that you could type in, and this chicken would do it. And it made people feel like they were actually the master of the chicken. And within a month of this site going up, they had over 360 million hits. It was for Burger King. And people didn't know this was for Burger King until a week later, after this had been up for a month, a week after they had validated that like basically everyone on the planet had seen it, they put an ad with the owner of the Subservient Chicken showing on regular television him walking around, do the things. And it made people then, because they now had seen it in one place and now another, they now all went to Burger King to buy the Burger King Tender Crisp Chicken Sandwich. So, and that's a key here, because you have the inoculation phase when you're actually putting something online or putting something in the wild. And then the incubation where you have to wait. And that's why buzz marketing or viral marketing takes a long time, because you don't know how long it's going to take. You just have to sit and wait for it. It takes a lot of effort to find the right people to be the ones that sit it out there. But then once it starts to spread, it spreads. And you can't control it anymore. It takes on a life of its own. I mean, there's memes all over the place from the Subservient Chicken, and that was an ad from 2004. So, like, people still remember that site, and they've made up parody sites for it. But it's extremely difficult to do anything. You can't reference it. You can't even be a part of it, and you can't claim credit for it until it gets to the infection stage. So it could be months or even a year before you ever see anything from this. So it's not a very effective way to do something really fast for a client or for your company, but it's always something that will stick in their heads for a long time. The next is guerrilla marketing. Now, this is not for the faint of heart, but it's definitely a fun one. You definitely are using alternative media, and it's also, just like buzz marketing, it's going to be hyper-targeted, and it's always grassroots. So guerrilla marketing, you're going to be using people on the ground somewhere to, whether it's online or in person, to do things for you. So this happened. I was living in Boston when I was driving to work one day, and I saw these little light bright things around town. And I recognized them immediately from a TV show that I was a fan of. But then, to my surprise, later that night, I heard that there was a terrorist attack in Boston that day. And I was like, oh my gosh, what happened? Oh, it was these little things that apparently the Comedy Central had been putting around town as a guerrilla marketing effort. But they had neglected to tell anyone that they were putting these things that looked like circuit boards up in the around Boston right after 9/11. So it wasn't the best thought out plan. I mean, anyone that knew the show, which was an underground show, knew immediately what it was, but the idea was to get it into other people's heads. Well, they did, but for a very, very bad thing. And I mean, these guys, they're called Moonanites. They're adorable. And it was a guerrilla marketing effort. Well, I mean, you could say that it actually did very well because it got national coverage for Comedy Central, and you could say that there is no such thing as bad publicity. But it was kind of adorable seeing these things being blown up by bomb squads because they thought they were bombs. So experiential marketing is another thing. Now, this is something that is interactive. it's engaging, but it's always out there and obvious. So you're going to get a fast bang for your buck with this one, because it's not hidden. Your name's going to be all over it, and people are going to know exactly what it is. Like, that's super obvious, right? Like, you know that that's Sprite, and it's cute. So when like everybody's on the beach, they see this big Sprite dispenser, and they're like, am I going to get washed with Sprite? Or so, but I mean, they go up anyway. So somebody's going to go up and try it, and then they're going to realize it is just water, but it is just adorable. And then they take pictures of it. It becomes a meme, and now you've hit viral with experiential. And this kind of thing does work very well. And it's another one like this. You can actually see these kinds of things all over the place. They're very inexpensive to do a pop-up. A lot of companies are doing pop-ups now, where it's just letting people try a new product that you might have. But the thing is, you don't tell anybody you're coming. You get in and get out. Obviously, the mall would need to know, but you get in, you get out, and then people get to try a product that you never knew. Now this was one of the most successful viral campaigns of last year. It was completely experiential, both online and in person, as they actually had a counter online on their webpage, like one of those old school counters of how many people were visiting the page, so that you could see how many people were actually visiting the page and where this bot was going to land the next day. So people were traveling around the world to try and find this Snap bot to get Snapchat spectacles. Snapchat used it as advertising to sell their spectacles ahead of time, and then they actually sold them out for months in advance just because of this one vending machine that they bought. They only had one. Yeah. So this is definitely an experiential marketing thing, and you have to get creative. And what kind of a company? You also have to be willing to take risks, and that's something that growth hackers are. Like, if you're not willing to take a risk with your brand, then this isn't for you. Because like these guys, I mean, that's totally on brand for a career site. And everyone going through there, like on their way to work in the morning, you can bet that they got a whole bunch of people that were like, absolutely, I feel that way. I'm going to go and find a new job. Here's another experiential. So how many of us don't want to sit in the bus seat? I mean, it's just terrible. They're gross. They're not clean. Or maybe they are in Australia, but in America, they're terrible. They're not clean. They smell bad, and there's usually a homeless person. So here, they actually had somebody put a real couch in and make it nice. And it was an ad for Airbnb to make you, like, it was just to show that anywhere could be Airbnb. And these are great, because you sit there and you're like, that totally looks like a Kit Kat. I totally want a Kit Kat right now. I'm gonna go get a Kit Kat. And it just makes you feel part of the experience. So experiential marketing is really fun, and it's something that a lot of traditional marketers have done, but growth hackers are way, it's a lot of what we do. So video game advertising. Now this is something that you may not have thought of, but it is a very highly growing growth channel. Now it includes in-game advertisements, rotating ads, interactive ads, advert games. Like the US Army has one of the most successful games of all time, which is an advert game to get people to enlist in the Army. And it's like people love this game, and then they don't realize they've been indoctrinated to go enlist. So it works really well. Now, some things that are really cool about this is it's hyper-targeted again. You know exactly who's playing the game by the demographics of it. So you know if you're spending money in this game, who is going to see it. So, for example, inside of a game, who here plays games? Who's seen these ads in games? it's a thing. They're all over the place. Soccer. And the reason that they're there and people don't feel bad about them is because it's recreating real life. Grand Theft Auto. You can find anywhere in an ad, anywhere in a game that would have a billboard or a marketing sign or anything like that, they feel natural in the game, and it hits the target. It hits the player. Farmville. McDonald's. There's McDonald's ads in Farmville, and people think they're cute. So product placement, which is very similar, is just like in the movie Ted here. You got Ted eating a bag of Doritos. It's a natural product placement, and you don't even feel it anymore. We're so used to it. Well, it wasn't always the case. The goal for product placement is to increase your brand awareness, and a lot of times it doesn't cost you a lot of money to just suggest to a TV show or a radio show or a movie, hey, use my brand in the background or use my brand while you're doing this. But again, this can actually take a long time because the time to market is long. So, but you want to make sure that they're using your brand in a positive scene, because if you're associated with a negative scene, like, oh, it was a train crash, and my brand was on the side of the train, that's not great. So you want to always have control over the script and where your product lands. So, for example, potatoes sold really well after The Martian. Amazingly, yeah, there was an actual spike in sale for the Idaho potato growers that they announced after the movie The Martian came out. So then they actually did a tie-in with Walmart to put the movie The Martian by the potatoes when the movie came out, and it sold a lot of both potatoes and the movie. So people were very happy. Reese's Pieces and E.T., that was the first known product placement of the new kind of product placements. Before, it would be people just, like Superman in the middle of a TV show, he would be stopping and saying, I need to smoke a Benson and Hedges. But during the movie E.T., it was built into the movie that he was following Reese's Pieces around. Now, branded entertainment, the brand is woven into the storyline. So this is actually really, if you think really hard, or not even too hard, you can think about where this one's going. The Lego Movie. Now, everybody that saw the Lego Movie was like, oh my gosh, I love this movie, it's great. And they didn't once think, this is an ad for Legos the entire time. Transformers, the entire series of Transformers was started as just an ad for toys. And pretty much every thing that Hasbro does is the same thing. So there are lots of branded entertainment options out there. Brand communities are great. So many of us actually participate in forums online or Facebook groups. Meetup has brand communities for people. So this allows people to meet the consumers that are part of their community. Evernote, which is what I was part of, Evernote actually had a forum that we started back in 2007, which is still going strong, and it has like at least 5% of the overall 250 million user community is in there and talking and actively answering questions. And there are only 5 employees at Evernote that monitor it, because there's raving fans from the community that take care of the moderation. So if you have your branded consumers taking care of it, then you can have evangelists raving about your product. Sponsored consumers. Now here's your influencers, here's your evangelists. These are people that you find, and then you have them go out there and you pay attention to, or you have them say the things in their own words that will get your product influenced. So people will, if you find somebody that really loves your product, already, that's already talking online about your product, that's already out there using your product, that's like, say you're Patagonia, and like there's somebody on Instagram that's just everything he does is hiking, and he's always wearing Patagonia, and he's always like kayaking and hiking and doing all these things, contact them and offer to sponsor them so that they will continue to be a Patagonia advocate and not switch over to the North Face. Because obviously they already love your product, they're already advocating for it. So if you offer to give them a few more Patagonia things that they will then show in their beautiful Instagram pictures, then things will work out really well for you for the cost of maybe a jacket. So influencer marketing is really, really key for growth hackers. Now, there's also sponsored content like this, where you are just writing articles and sponsoring them. So it makes it, I mean, it's basically like ads that are actually educational articles. And again, these are real articles that they're writing, but they're paying for them to be there. So it's not like the old kind of ads that like are fake in a magazine and you're like, wait a second, that just seemed fake. No, they're actually doing real kinds of ads now. And they're finding real authors to write them, but they still pay for the sponsorship. I get offered for my ink column all the time, people to sponsor it, but I like it's against my column to do that. And then my actual favorite of all of these is alternative media. Now this is billboards, bus wraps, and street kiosks, because this is where you can get super creative for very low spend. And it's to get people where they are, which is also where growth hacking really comes into play. And again, you're probably like, why are these all traditional marketing? Why is this not online? Well, because a lot of growth hacking is finding a customer where they are. And you can find them on their forums, you can find them online, you can find them on social media, but it's really about finding them before they ever found it online, so that they will find you online. So this was super cute when I saw this one, the Mars truck going on the street, because when you see this, you're like, oh, that's adorable, I'm gonna buy a Mars bar. That gets the point across really well, with Mr. Clean being the only clean one of the steps. The hate dropped calls is cute. So that got the point across as well to people, and they're like, yeah, I don't like that either. This is great. So this is, people were actually stopped on the street calling 911 trying to help this family, which worked really well for this company. They thought it was great. Folgers Coffee, they saw that there was in New York and pretty much every city, there's manhole covers that smoke out. So they just put a Folgers Coffee film on top of it, and people walk by and they're like, oh, it's a cup of coffee smoking in the morning. It's great. I love these. These are cute. It's a pasta ad. So it makes people think about pasta, and they're like, oh, well, I kind of want that pasta now. Yeah. So when people saw this, again, they were like, oh, it's The Sopranos. So you get to be super creative, and that's a lot of the fun of this. Yeah, so you get to work with a lot of really cool people. And this, again, you've got money in the security glass. People were trying to break through it. Oh, wait, you can't because it's security glass and you can't break it. And that was real money inside. And just people, as you go through, their hands were going up on the arms. And they made a wheelchair around that. And then there were just people standing up there. So, and last but not least, we've got Virgin Atlantic that successfully sent egg cartons with eggs unbroken through their baggage handlers to show, look at our baggage handlers being perfect. So with that, I'm going to open up the Q&A, and we've got the duckies for people that want to ask questions.
Excellent. So we actually have what's called a catch box. This also will be thrown not at your head, but potentially near it. Please talk into it about where I am, and make sure that you have it before you start speaking.
So at the beginning you mentioned that the way you go about advertising is that you split it up a lot with the Facebook example. So that's something I'm working in advertising, and it's something we usually advise against because of statistical significance.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you address that, or how do you tackle that?
So it's all about getting a large amount of data. So you're splitting it up, but you're doing a large amount, so you can do a t-test on the statistical analysis. And then once you narrow down to which things are working, then you start spreading more on those. So you start out large, and then you start to funnel down until you find the things that are working. And I mean, that's basically how it works.
Thanks for the talk. It's fascinating. I was curious, like a lot of these techniques, I can easily see them being applied to consumers. If you're selling to businesses, could you see any like overlap, or what's your take on that?
Absolutely. So with businesses, I go to a lot of conferences, for example, and almost all of the ones, like the Billboard Wraps, the alternative media, all of these things, at CES last year in Las Vegas, the Consumer Electronics Show, everyone was trying to stand out among all the other companies. One person did a Walking Dead themed booth for people to come up, and it got people to come up and talk to them about it because they wanted to take a picture with the Walking Dead characters. So, and there's also other ways you can do, like QR code scavenger hunts and things like that. So there's so many creative things you can come up with in a corporate setting as well. You can do things online. For example, the TV show Lost had a whole bunch of hidden Easter eggs in the TV show for people to then look up online and research and phone calls to make. You can do the same thing with a company, because remember, raving fans exist inside corporations. If you can get somebody to love you, then they will talk up to the people that matter there. So. Close. That was better than I normally do. Over there.
Thanks for the talk. It was really interesting. Reminded me of the lessons of Eric Ries's book on Lean Startup, the A/B testing part, and that's where my question is coming to. It's very easy to develop A/B tests on Google Analytics and Facebook. Mm-hmm. What's your view on experiential marketing, where the Sprite ad and likes of that, how you develop the A/B testing and how you test it out at scale?
So for something like the Sprite ad, you can do that, like say that you're testing it on one beach one day and see if it works there. You test because you now have built that thing. You can then test it in another location, maybe not on a beach, maybe in an amusement park, and see if it works there with a different demographic. Because you know the demographic of the people that are on that beach. So now what you'd be wanting to test is, are those similar people somewhere else that this would work? So the A/B test would be to try and figure out, to narrow down your demographic, and that's how I would do it.
Thank you.
Catch. Oh, yay, I didn't hit you on the head. Awesome.
Thanks. You mentioned Facebook, and I'm just wondering about the other social media, how you use those, like Twitter and LinkedIn and Google+. Yeah.
So advertising on Twitter is rather useless. It is. Just don't. Because Twitter has promoted tweets, but who pays attention to promoted tweets? Exactly. We do actually pay attention to Facebook ads, and Google sponsored ads you actually can get value out of, but you have to target them well. So make sure that you're using the right keywords. Things like spy foo can help you understand what the best keywords are for your area. And SimilarWeb is good too for that. But really, Twitter is not good for marketing, and LinkedIn is good for growth hacking in getting leads, but not for advertising on. So you can use LinkedIn to gather a whole bunch of people to create a leads list for, and LinkedIn Premium is awesome for that because you can target it with job title, location, years of experience, exactly like who you want to be targeting, and then you start your funnel in a different way.
And what about using it for publicity? Then you just look at advertising. What about for publicity?
For LinkedIn?
Yeah, and Twitter, etc. Yeah.
Well, so I mean, I'm a verified Twitter user. I use it constantly to let people know what I'm doing, but I also make sure that I'm posting on, I post on all the channels, but that also means Instagram and Snapchat as well. So make sure that you know, but that's because I know where my clients are. I know where my customers are, and they're on all of them. But if your demographic happens to be on Facebook, then pay attention to Facebook. If they're on LinkedIn, then pay attention to LinkedIn. It's fun.
Okay.
Thanks for that. For the offline kind of marketing, how would you, I guess, on the growth hacking side of things, how would you measure whether they convert or whether you're getting sales and that kind of stuff?
So you can actually tell right away if people are coming to your site with Google Analytics. And so say you did something right that day with the Sprite ad, and then you notice immediately that people from that geolocation are coming to your website, or you're getting a spike in sales in stores in that geolocation from your retailers that are reporting to you, then you already have those metrics. So just because it's offline doesn't mean you can't measure it. For example, we do radio ads for some of our clients, and radio ads are hyper-targeted because the people that are listening to radio channels are very specific. For example, if you're listening to a cricket game, it's going to likely be men from a certain age, so the ad spend is very little, but the value of those ads are very high. So what you can do then is put a landing page link in there or a phone number to use for people to call. And then you know the conversion rate because you know that it was people right from that radio ad. And then,
hey, the 1,800 Facebook ads that you've got running for your company, how are you producing them, and at what point does the cost of that production outweigh the saving on not doing as many adverts on 10 adverts?
So we have an algorithm that we use to automatically generate them once we have. So we just come up with the pictures that we want, the words that we want to use, and the color schemes and stuff that we want to go for, and then we just generate them automatically, and then they just get uploaded automatically into the Facebook matrix.
And so then is your advice for small businesses to be using external, not to try and do this in-house,
No.
not to try and get a person to go make the
No. There's a great company called Adespresso that I see somebody nodding over there. So they're actually a Vegas company. That's great. And they, I'd like to plug the home team. What they do is they do the micro-targeting for you. They figure out what the best ad is going to be for $35. It'll you put in a couple of pictures and some words that you want to use, and then it'll generate a whole bunch and figure out what the best performing ads are going to be for you. All the way in the back.
It's going to be fun. Where's this going?
And for you, Naz. Right.
So basically my question around attribution, also around those 1,600 ads, for example. Typically what I see is that you don't only have one touch point with the consumer before they convert, but multiple. So with those 1,600 ads, how do you measure the attribution or contribution that one of each of these ads had to the final conversion?
So with Facebook, it's very good in telling you it gives you the name of the person, the email, and everything when you actually get them to your page. So then you can see how many times that person has actually gotten to your page. It doesn't tell you on Facebook, but once you've converted them to the page, it tells you how many times they've ended up there. And so you can then see on, like when you tie Google Analytics and Facebook together with the pixels, you can see which ad brought them there, how many different times, and then it can help you. Because they may have seen the same ad, or they may have seen different ads different times. And if it was, but yeah, it usually takes about 7 different touch points for somebody to convert on average for anything. But it's not usually from just Facebook. They would have to have heard about you somewhere else. And that's why it's useful to have so many different methods of advertising, because if you're only, like with the Burger King subservient chicken, for example, it wasn't just the viral thing. That wasn't enough. What helped was then later they did a traditional ad, which then got people to connect, oh, that thing was Burger King, I'm going to go buy chicken. So just the Facebook ads isn't enough. You need to have like that's enough to get people to pay attention to the fact that your brand is out there. It's good for recognition. But then you need somewhere else, like somebody writing about you, like sponsored content somewhere, or something trustworthy that will get people to actually convert. Hold on. You, him, and then I, you. All right. Oh.
Okay, thank you. How well online news ad and news about your product work, and newspaper as well, compared to your cost?
So how does newspaper advertising compare to online cost? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like you can publish your ad in online portal. Also, you can ask the editors to publish a news about your product.
Uh-huh.
So how will that work? And also newspaper ad, and yeah.
So newspaper ads are inexpensive in most cases, unless it's something like a national newspaper that's going to end up in a hotel, that kind of thing. However, the likelihood that people are going to see those ads now is low, because most people don't read newspaper ads anymore. Unless it's a very specific kind of newspaper in a specific area, and the ones that are doing that have very high rates for their ads because they know they can get it. So if you're growth hacking, I don't recommend using newspapers because it's too expensive, because the people that are doing it are they have the money for the traditional ad spend. Now, that's not to say that you can't put something like in the classifieds or something for the people that are actually going through those, or use Craigslist or something like that. But I mean, that would be more of a growth hacking kind of thing, because there's actually a very famous growth hack where somebody put in a, have you seen my friend, they've been missing since X, and it turned out it was an ad for the TV show Lost. Like they did this in the newspapers in the missing persons sections of the classifieds in every town that the main characters were born in around the world. So this was just a very subversive thing. They also put up billboards in the towns that said they're lying to you, and it was just like Oceanic 812 or something. They're lying to you. Know the truth. Go to this website. And that was all it said. And it was only in the towns that the main characters were born in. So like this was something that, again, became viral, and people were then finding out about the show Lost. So, okay. I got one more. So, up here.
Yeah, you mentioned in the beginning that growth hacking is different to traditional marketing in the sense that growth hacking is finding, it's basically about having a product that people already want rather than getting a product and sticking to someone's face hoping they would buy it. What's the best way to find like a trending top product? Like how do you know what's in demand right now?
Well, And that's part of questioning your users. It's going out there with, like if I was growth hacking the new Coke Zero No Sugar product, what I would be doing is I would be going out like the Tropicana pop-up, and I'd be taste testing it with people against other products. And I'd be saying, hey, what do you think of this? Blind taste test. Is this awesome? Yes or no? And then just doing that until you find out that people actually do like it, and then like take it off and, hey, yeah, they love this new Coca-Cola Zero No Sugar. So, and then you find out that they like it, and if they don't like it, then you keep doing that until they do, and you keep tweaking the product until they do. And likely that's actually what they did do, and now they're just ready to release it.
It's just getting feedback
Yeah.
from the customer to see what they actually want.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to guess what they want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a company as large as Coke isn't likely to make another new Coke kind of thing again happen. So, well, I'm out of duckies, but if we want more questions, you can after. But thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate that. And I absolutely love feedback. So feel free to email me or contact me on Twitter, because I am there all the time. And thank you so much, everyone. I'm here for the rest of the night, so feel free to ask me any questions.